over and over, a daily thing occurs for an account holder's blood to be to its boiling point. What occurs? Well, their deposit is going on an extended hold. So this raises a question. Why are banks placing our deposits into a hold when they have money in the bank? They have money in their vaults. They have money all over. So why are they placing it on a hold? Well, this process that may seem as madness to yourself is actually federal law input to protect you and the bank from fake checks, bouncing checks, non-sufficient funds, overdraft funds, and many more fees that could be hit into your account and affect the bank as well. So let's carry on. What is a hold? A hold is a detainment on deposited funds in an account, meaning when you present your check and you deposit it, and the bank gives you notice of the check going on a hold, once it finishes posting, it will be posted onto your current balance. However, its availability for you to access the funds, withdraw it, and use it on your debit card will not be made possible because the bank will delay that and restrict it from you. Any attempt to do it or use it ever so will lead to either overdrafts, NSF fees, and much more. Now, let's talk about deposits and availability. I know most of us know about deposits, cash, checks, wires, and items. Money orders and cashier's checks fall under these items, and so forth. Now let's talk about their availability. It's already established as availability onto the federal law and the banks themselves and their policies. Cash are same day, checks are next business day, wires same day or next day, and items are usually next day. So, if a bank and the law already has it in place when your items should be available, then why do they delay your funds? Why do they not let you get it? Well, why is there a hold? Regulation CC. That's the name of the act imposed by the federal government to help fairly limit the amount of time a financial institution can hold deposited funds. You see, before the act, banks and many other institutions were placing holds far longer than they should be required on an item. So Regulation CC was imposed to combat these unfair holds and protect both the bank and the customer at the same time. So what are they being protected by? And why do they delay funds? Well, a good question is, where are those funds coming from? Because money does not move quick. And what that means is, where does those funds come from? Again, as I touch on the same question, those funds come from the paying bank. So an example here, I am a Chase account holder. However, I work at a company who banks with Wells Fargo. Other checks are being drawn off Wells Fargo checks. So I present that Wells Fargo check and I show it to my bank and deposit to my bank's item. Usually, since I have a good history, they'll usually make it either that same day or the next day available. And they make it next day availability is because it takes around 1 to 2 to 3 days for the bank to pick up the money. However, there are cases where there's not enough money inside the account and that leads to a bounced check. So, to protect themselves from that, banks will input a hold to give it a longer period of time for the check to be paid. Furthermore, as I said, where is that money coming from that you receive if it takes that long amount of time? Well, clearly the bank that you bank has given you that money as a loan and they're going to take the money from your check and pay themselves with it. So, there comes a problem. You cash a check, however it bounces on you, the check doesn't get paid, so what happens? Your account goes negative because the bank needs to receive its funds, and on top of that, they might charge you a bunch of their own fees. Return item fees, NSF fees, overdraft fees. Here's a big issue, and that's why Reg CC is in place, is to protect both you and the bank and create your relationship solid. So furthermore, what is this protection from? As we hear a lot, return item fee, fraudulent checks, and misuse of funds. That's what it protects the banks from. As for you as a customer, it protects you from the fees that your bank can hit you with, overdraft fees, NSF fees, return item fees, and fraudulent checks hitting inside your account, probably taking your account number and your routing number being reported back to the paying bank that could be drawn out as a fake, popular online term, Nigerian check. Furthermore, how does Reg CC work, and how is this helping protect you and the bank? Well, let's go more into depth about this, because as I give my example, a work check is usually going to be a next day item. However, what makes these next day items and these same day items an exception and put into a 7-day hold, and put into a 9-day hold, a 2-day hold, or a 5-day hold? Well, the exceptions are right here. The amount of time, the amount of the item, if it exceeds over $5,000 or more, whether the last item returned or was found unpaid or was fraudulent, whether it's a local check or a non-local check. Now, local checks are, checks drawn off the same bank or close checks, items, or, partner banks, and non-local checks are foreign checks, just something your bank doesn't see. Those right there, personal checks, little, handwritten checks, all of those fall under that category. And on top of that, checks believed to be fraudulent or not paid, and if the account was excessively overdrawn or has a bad depositing history, meaning that protects banks from accounts that will use the funds immediately. Funds are like when there are accounts where people will take out all their money and overdraft their account that same day they get their deposit in, their direct deposit. So all of this Reg CC procedure is to help protect you and the bank. And this is the biggest key, because a lot of people have their frustration, their inconvenience with it. However, the procedure is made to help as much as it can towards the customer. The first 200 will be made available the next business day. So you won't leave without money, technically. 200 will be made available. However, 200 is barely enough. Especially if you deposit your check and it's going on a hold, and the next day you need to pay your renters, or the next day you need to pay your roofers, or your car insurance, or however. Or the rest will go, and then the rest will go into the bank policy for hold, so it could go on a 2-day, a 5-day, a 3-day, 7-day, or 9-day, depending on however it is that your bank does. The longest hold for a bank is 9 days, and 11, there's a bigger exception, meaning if the bank is like, this is a fraudulent item, like this is something big. These are really rare. You don't really see these as much nowadays. It's usually just a 9-day hold, since everything's picked up a little bit more on transferring money. And there's different policies for different banks. Definitely, I know with a lot of banks, you have 5-day holds, 7-day holds, even 11-day holds. As I said, 9-day holds is the most you'll see in most banks. However, you'll see 3-day holds, 2-day holds, like a random amount of hold dates. But yes, definitely. So let's talk about our conclusion and where we're residing and how this regulation affects both the bank and the customer. Well, to conclude, this regulation is to protect both the bank and the customer. However, not everything is perfect, and this regulation does have its flaws. As for the bank, this regulation protects it more than anything, but it also affects it at the same time. These affects that they have unhappy customers, accounts being closed. But on the positive side, they are securing the money, and it gives them more time to verify the checks and make sure they are receiving the money. As for the customer, there's more negative than positive. The negative, it's an inconvenience. You have a loss of funds temporarily, limit to your own funds, frustration and anger because you need to pay that rent, you have a car payment due, you have something, and you're going to now be overdrafted. You can be assessed NSF fees because you need to access your funds, and you don't understand the bank policies, and the bank doesn't, your teller isn't as negotiable as it is with you, and you're not understanding what he's saying. So there is a lot more negativity into it, but it's a lot better than the random extensions and the unfair extensions that were happening before Reg CC. However, the best And most perfect thing about a check is that it protects you from hot checks, and that is without a doubt the good positive effect that it has on both sides. Because both sides can secure the check, and both sides will be clear. So definitely, that is the end of my presentation. However, for my speech, I'm going to keep on going with the fact that Regulation CC, in conclusion, is a protection, a federal law, and something imposed to protect both you and the bank. Yes, it's inconvenient. Yes, it's angry. And yes, it makes your veins pop out of your forehead and out of your neck. And you hate to hear the word that your account is negative, it has been overdrawn, that the check is supposed to be fraudulent, but you know the person or the situation and the bank doesn't understand it, but they'll still put it on the hold to both assure themselves more than anything than yourself. That is without a lie. However, it is also to protect you at the same time and not assess you as many funds as they can be. In the end, it is a law and a procedure, and as painstakingly as it is, we need to understand both sides of the story. And that is it.